Harper Daniels had always known that her older sister Autumn was dramatic, attention-seeking, and capable of making any family gathering about herself. But nothing had prepared her for the level of calculated cruelty that unfolded during what should have been the happiest day of her life when Autumn stood up during the wedding ceremony at exactly the moment the officiant asked if anyone objected to the union and announced to the 200 assembled guests that she was pregnant with the groom's baby. The lie was so perfectly timed and so deliberately devastating that it took Harper several seconds to process what had happened. Watching her fiancé Michael's face turn white with shock and confusion while their families erupted into chaos, and the wedding photographer continued snapping pictures of what had instantly transformed from a joyful celebration into a public humiliation that would haunt Harper for the rest of her life. Harper was a pediatric nurse who had spent 6 years building a relationship with Michael Torres, a kind and patient elementary school teacher who had proposed to her during a quiet dinner at the same restaurant where they had their first date, and their love story had been the kind of steady, genuine partnership that made their friends believe in the possibility of lasting happiness. But Autumn had always resented Harper's quiet success and stable relationship, especially since Autumn's own life was a series of failed relationships, job losses, and dramatic confrontations that she blamed on everyone except herself. And Harper realized later that her sister had been planning this wedding sabotage for months as the ultimate way to destroy Harper's happiness while making herself a center of attention. The pregnancy announcement was completely false. Michael had never been alone with Autumn for more than 5 minutes in the 6 years he and Harper had been dating, and Harper knew with absolute certainty that her sister was lying because Autumn had been complaining for months about not having a boyfriend and spending her weekends alone watching Netflix and ordering takeout. But the damage was immediate and catastrophic, with Michael's deeply religious parents demanding that the wedding be postponed until the paternity of Autumn's supposed baby could be determined, Harper's own parents torn between supporting their daughters and the entire wedding party left standing in formal wear while two families that had been celebrating just minutes earlier now faced off in accusations and denials that would poison relationships for years to come. The wedding was called off on the spot, with guests filing out in uncomfortable silence while Harper stood in her white dress watching 6 years of planning and dreams dissolve because her sister had decided that Harper's happiness was less important than Autumn's need to be the most important person in any room she entered. But Harper Daniels was not the broken victim that Autumn expected her to be. She was a healthcare professional trained to think clearly under pressure, to investigate symptoms until she found their root cause, and to develop treatment plans that addressed problems systematically and thoroughly, skills that she now applied to the most important case of her life. Her investigation into Autumn's claim began immediately, using her medical knowledge to ask pointed questions about pregnancy symptoms, due dates, and prenatal care that Autumn couldn't answer convincingly, and within 48 hours Harper had compiled a list of inconsistencies in her sister's story that would have been obvious to anyone who wasn't emotionally devastated by having their wedding destroyed. But Harper's real breakthrough came when she realized that Autumn's dramatic pregnancy announcement wasn't a spontaneous act of sabotage, but part of a larger pattern of attention-seeking behavior that had been escalating for months. And she began investigating other recent lies and manipulations that her sister had used to insert herself into other people's important moments. What Harper discovered was far more disturbing than simple sibling jealousy. Autumn had been systematically sabotaging multiple relationships and events in their extended family and friend group, always timing her interventions to maximize drama and ensure that she became the focus of attention rather than the people who were supposed to be celebrating. The evidence was hidden in plain sight once Harper knew where to look. Autumn had broken up her cousin's engagement by spreading false rumors about infidelity, had ruined her friend's baby shower by claiming that the father was actually someone else entirely, and had even disrupted their grandmother's funeral by causing a scene about inheritance that forced the family to deal with her manufactured crisis instead of properly grieving their loss. Each incident followed the same pattern. Autumn would wait until someone else was about to have their special moment, then create a dramatic situation that made her the center of attention while destroying what should have been a positive experience for the people she claimed to love. But the most shocking discovery came when Harper realized that Autumn had been documenting all of these sabotage campaigns on a secret social media account where she bragged about her ability to manipulate family members and destroy their important events, treating each successful disruption like a victory that proved her superiority over people who were too naive to recognize her true nature. The account contained detailed descriptions of how she had planned each attack, including the fake pregnancy announcement at Harper's wedding, which Autumn described as her masterpiece of family destruction that had taken months of careful timing and preparation to execute perfectly. Armed with screenshots of every post, every bragged confession, and every piece of evidence that showed the calculated nature of Autumn's cruelty, Harper began the most systematic exposure campaign of her life, starting with sharing the evidence with every family member and friend who had been victimized by Autumn's manipulations over the past several years. The reaction was swift and unanimous. People who had blamed themselves for relationship problems, family conflicts, and ruined celebrations suddenly understood that they had been victims of deliberate sabotage by someone who was supposed to love and support them, and their collective anger created a wave of consequences that Autumn had never anticipated when she was planning her individual attacks. Harper's masterstroke came when she printed out every post from Autumn's secret account and mailed copies to their parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, and every person who had ever invited Autumn to a wedding, baby shower, birthday party, or family gathering, ensuring that everyone would know exactly what kind of person had been in their midst and how many precious moments had been destroyed by someone who treated family love like a game to be won through manipulation and cruelty. The fallout was immediate and total. Autumn found herself completely cut off from the family that had supported her through decades of drama and failure, with no one willing to invite her to future celebrations or trust her with information about important events, leaving her isolated and alone with only the social media account where she had documented her own cruelty as proof of the relationships she had destroyed for temporary attention. But Harper's revenge reached its climax when she scheduled her replacement wedding for exactly 1 year after the original date, inviting everyone who had witnessed Autumn's sabotage to see that love and commitment had survived her sister's attempt to destroy them, and making sure that Autumn received a wedding invitation with a note explaining that she was welcome to attend as long as she remained silent throughout the entire ceremony. Autumn didn't attend the replacement wedding, but Harper's victory was complete when she learned that her sister had been forced to move to another state after becoming such a pariah in their community that she couldn't maintain employment or friendships once people understood her pattern of sabotaging other people's happiness for her own entertainment. Standing at the altar exactly 1 year after Autumn's fake pregnancy announcement, surrounded by family and friends who now understood the difference between genuine love and manipulative attention-seeking, Harper married Michael in a ceremony that was beautiful, not just because it represented their commitment to each other, but because it proved that some bonds are strong enough to survive even the most calculated attempts to destroy them. The marriage has thrived over the past 3 years, with Harper and Michael building the kind of partnership that Autumn had tried to prevent. One based on trust, mutual respect, and the understanding that real love doesn't need to destroy other people's happiness to prove its worth, and that the most satisfying revenge against people who try to sabotage your joy is simply refusing to let their cruelty change who you are or prevent you from building the life you deserve with people who genuinely care about your happiness rather than seeing it as a threat to their own importance.